The Eight Immortals Travel East Chapter 22.
Today, we are looking at the ultimate story of defying authority.
And we're pulling this from a really fascinating excerpt.
Yeah, from chapter 22 of the classic Chinese text Journey to the East, or Dong Yu Ji.
Exactly. We're unpacking the origin story of He Jianggu, the immortal maiden He.
Right. And what we're really tracking today is, well, it's a masterclass in how an individual claims absolute sovereignty over their own life.
Transforming from just a local girl into a legendary figure.
Through sheer defiance, some very bizarre diets, and, direct encounters with the divine, you might think you know what a rebellion looks like, but I promise you haven't seen one quite like this.
No, you really haven't, and it's a profound narrative because we aren't just looking at some vague fairy tale.
Right, it's very grounded.
It is. The text embeds this highly mystical journey into a very specific, recognizable, cultural and historical reality. The author firmly places the supernatural within the bureaucratic, deeply structured world of Tang Dynasty China.
So let's establish that reality for the listener, because the text sets her apart from, the very moment she's born.
Oh, absolutely.
We are introduced to a girl named He Senvev, and she's living in Zhengcheng County, Guangzhou.
Specifically by Mica Creek.
You're right, by Mica Creek. And she's born with this highly peculiar, very specific physical trait.
It's not what you'd expect either.
No, she doesn't have a full head of hair, and she isn't bald. She has exactly 6 hairs growing right on the top of her head.
Which is such a striking detail. That physical anomaly is our first clear signal.
A signal of what exactly?
Well, in classical Chinese literature, an unusual physical trait at birth, especially something as hyper-specific as 6 hairs, is almost always a diagnostic marker of a remarkable destiny.
But like she's marked from day one.
Exactly. The text is telling you right away that her biology is already operating on a slightly different frequency than the rest of humanity.
I love that phrase, a different frequency.
And the setting is crucial here, too. She is living by Mica Creek during the Tang Dynasty, specifically under the reign of Empress Wu.
Which is a huge detail we will definitely come back to.
Yes, it anchors the girl with the 6 hairs into a precise political era.
Okay, so we have this local kid by Mica Creek, and you have to wonder how someone goes from a rural village to becoming an actual immortal legend.
It's quite the leap.
It really is. According to the text, that massive shift happens when she's about 14 or 15 years old.
And it starts with a dream.
A highly specific, very literal dream.
She dreams of a divine being. And this being doesn't offer, a philosophical riddle or some vague prophecy about her future.
Right, no riddles here.
No, it gives her a concrete biological prescription. The being simply tells her, eat mica powder, and your body will become light and you will not die.
Okay, and this is where I really struggle with her reaction.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because mica is a mineral. It's a literal rock. I mean, you can find it out in the dirt. It's fleety and shiny, sure, but it is undeniably geology, not a breakfast food.
That is entirely true.
So she wakes up at dawn, and her internal monologue is essentially, well, how could the words of a divine being deceive me?
And she acts on it immediately.
She just goes for it. She physically eats the powdered mineral. But wait, is this spiritual alignment, or is it just profound gullibility?
It's a fair question to ask.
Because if someone blindly follows a dream to eat rocks, how do we distinguish enlightenment from madness in these texts? I mean, if I have a dream telling me to eat gravel, I am booking a doctor's appointment.
Right, you're not making breakfast out of it.
Exactly. I'm checking my carbon monoxide detector,
I get that.
No?
But to understand her actions, you really have to understand the underlying logic of Taoist alchemy.
Okay, lay that out for me.
Well, that's the framework she's operating within. Why mica, right? In historical Taoist alchemy, which is known as Weidan or external alchemy, the ingestion of minerals wasn't arbitrary.
So it wasn't just random rocks.
No, things like mica, cinnabar, or jade were chosen for a specific reason. The mechanism is based on a kind of sympathetic magic.
Sympathetic magic.
Yeah. Minerals do not decay. They are eternal, indestructible matter.
Okay. I see where this is going.
The logic dictates that if you consume indestructible matter and process it through your body, that permanence physically transfers to your own biological makeup.
So you are essentially trying to chemically engineer your own eternity.
Precisely. You're absorbing the physical property of immortality.
Wow, okay, that actually reframes the whole thing. It's not just eating dirt.
Exactly. And the text validates her psychological state instantly. She doesn't seek a second opinion.
Right, no hesitation.
She doesn't even test a small amount to see if she gets sick. She completely trusts the divine over her physical, earthly reality.
And that absolute trust is her first real test.
Yes. And because she acts with this unwavering conviction, the alchemy actually works,
The text states she instantly feels her body become light.
which is the intended effect.
And that physical sensation of lightness is what directly triggers the next major conflict in her life.
Because she's changing.
Yeah, because her body is changing, she decides to completely reject the standard societal timeline that is expected of her. She turns 15.
Which the text explicitly refers to as the hairpin age.
Right, the hairpin age.
And the hairpin age is a massive cultural milestone. In Tang Dynasty society, turning 15 meant you were officially of marriageable age.
You would literally pin your hair out.
Exactly, to signal your entry into adulthood. At this point, her mother does exactly what a mother in that era was supposed to do.
She tries to arrange a marriage.
Immediately.
And Xianggu, who is currently feeling lighter than air from eating powdered minerals, just refuses.
She firmly swears an oath never to marry.
Now, a teenager rebelling against their parents isn't exactly new.
No, it's pretty universal.
But the text adds a detail here that absolutely fascinates me. It explicitly states that her mother could not force her.
That phrasing is so important.
What is the actual mechanism of that defiance? I mean, think about the immense pressure you face when you decide to step off the expected path today.
And then magnify that by ancient Chinese societal norms.
Exactly. Was her mother just unusually progressive, or is something deeper happening here?
It is absolutely something deeper. You have to picture this from the mother's perspective within the Confucian structural hierarchy.
Okay, the hierarchy.
In that society, the emperor is the father of the state, and the father, or in this case the parents, are the emperor of the household.
So their word is law.
Pretty much.
Right.
A parent's authority regarding marriage was practically absolute. Refusing marriage wasn't just a familial disagreement.
It was an existential threat to the social order.
Exactly. You marry, you have children, you continue the family line. That is your worldly duty.
So for a 15-year-old girl to just say no, and for the text to state the mother could not force her,
It implies a complete breakdown of normal human hierarchy.
that's incredible.
The friction here is between worldly duty and spiritual destiny. That phrase, could not force her, shows us that Xianggu has shifted her compliance
You shifted it how?
from an earthly jurisdiction to a cosmic one. It's not that her mother didn't try, it's that Xianggu's vow was delivered with such unshakable, otherworldly authority.
That a mortal parent just psychologically hits a wall.
Exactly. Xianggu has begun to shed her mortal constraints. She's drawn a boundary that ordinary societal pressure simply cannot penetrate.
I love that idea of shifting jurisdictions. Because she successfully establishes that boundary, she gains the freedom to physically wander.
And that wandering changes everything.
It brings her face to face with the actual heavy hitters of the immortal world. She is just hanging out by the creek one day.
Micah Creek again.
Right. And she meets two legendary immortals, Iron Crutch and Kahit.
Yes, the narrative completely shifts here from her internal transformation to her external education.
They realize who she is.
They don't just greet her, they recognize her altered state, and they teach her the secret spells of immortality.
And from that moment on, she steps into this incredible dual life.
She really does. The text says she starts traveling through the mountains and the valleys.
And she moves like flying.
Like flying. She leaves at dawn, she explores these profound magical realms, and she returns at dusk.
But here's the detail that trips me up.
What's that?
Despite moving like she's flying and discussing the fundamental nature of the universe all day, she always brings mountain fruits back to her mother at night.
Yes, the fruit.
How does that work? Usually, when you read about ascetic traditions, achieving enlightenment requires a brutal, complete severing of all earthly attachments.
That's the typical ascetic model, yes.
Yeah.
You leave your family, you walk into a cave, and you never look back.
Right. But she doesn't do that. It's like a high-powered CEO who negotiates billion-dollar international mergers all day.
But still make sure to be home by 6 p.m. to cook dinner for her mom.
Exactly. How do we reconcile this supreme, gravity-defying cosmic existence with such a grounded, almost mundane display of filial duty?
It's a brilliant philosophical nuance in the text. True enlightenment at least in this specific Taoist narrative, does not mandate the destruction of human connection.
So you don't have to cut everyone off.
No. Her daily return with the mountain fruit proves that she can exist in both realms simultaneously.
That's beautiful, actually.
She literally transcends earthly physics, moving like she's flying, but she remains emotionally tethered to her mother.
So she's proving that you don't have to be cold and detached to be enlightened.
Precisely. It softens the archetype of the distant, unfeeling immortal. By bringing the fruit back every evening, she bridges two entirely different frequencies of existence.
It makes her a lot more relatable.
Deeply sympathetic, it makes her a culturally resonant figure for the reader, showing that one can achieve ultimate spiritual liberation without abandoning the core human virtue of filial piety.
And that dual existence is fascinating. But as she grows older, the balance definitely starts tipping toward the cosmic side.
Oh, absolutely. The text notes that because she spends her days discussing the Tao with immortals, her own earthly speech becomes extraordinary.
I can only imagine if you spend your days debating the fundamental nature of reality with divine beings.
Your casual small talk is going to be pretty mind-bending.
Right.
Her perspective has been entirely re-engineered by divine knowledge. She is no longer speaking from the limited vantage point of a mortal from Zhencheng County.
Her intellect has caught up with her physical lightness.
Exactly.
And her extraordinary discourse becomes so famous that it attracts the attention of the absolute pinnacle of the mortal world.
Empress Wu.
Empress Wu hears about this incredibly unique girl and decides she wants to meet her.
This is a critical escalation in the narrative.
Yeah.
And to understand its weight, you have to understand who Empress Wu actually was.
Set the stage for us.
Wu Zetian is the only female monarch in the history of China to rule in her own right. She is the apex of temporal earthly power.
The ultimate boss.
Truly. She controlled armies, rewrote laws, and mastered a rigidly patriarchal system to take the throne.
So you have the most powerful person on Earth saying, "Come here."
And sending royal envoys to fetch her.
Right. The Empress sends her royal envoys to summon Xianggu to the palace. But halfway to the capital, Xianggu simply vanishes.
Just poof, gone.
Gone without a single trace. The envoys search absolutely everywhere, tearing the countryside apart, but they cannot find her.
Which is so audacious.
I find this absolutely wild. I mean, if the Empress of the Tang Dynasty summons you, you go or you lose your head. You don't just ditch her.
It is the ultimate evasion, and it sets up a magnificent thematic clash between two entirely different types of female power.
Explain that clash, because it feels like there's a huge mechanical difference in how they operate.
There is.
If I think about it, it's like the Empress is trying to catch a radio wave with a pair of handcuffs.
That is an excellent way to conceptualize it. Empress Wu represents the peak of political terrestrial dominance.
The handcuffs.
Yes, her power relies on physical control, hierarchy, and geography. Handcuffs, exactly. He, Xianggu, on the other hand, represents the peak of spiritual untethered liberation.
She's the radio wave.
She is the radio wave. The Empress can send envoys to search every inch of her empire, but she cannot command it immortal.
Because an immortal doesn't exist on a frequency that the state can measure.
Or contain, right.
So by vanishing, she isn't just running away. She's actively demonstrating that the Empress's jurisdiction has hard limits.
Exactly. Xianggu's disappearance is her final, definitive detachment from the mortal hierarchy.
Step one was the hairpin age.
Right. Earlier, she rejected societal expectations by refusing marriage. Now, she is rejecting political subjugation.
Which is a massive level up.
By vanishing into thin air, she proves that her spiritual sovereignty supersedes even the highest earthly authority. The Emperor's reach literally stops where the immortal's realm begins.
Okay, so she has ghosted the Empress, she has completely escaped the grasp of the mortal government, and now she is ready to complete her final transition into pure legend.
Her ascension.
But what I find so funny is that the mortal world refuses to stop keeping tabs on her. The bureaucracy just won't let it go.
The text insists on weaving her back into the historical record, which is a hallmark of how Chinese mythology often operates.
It does it with such intense specificity. Like, the text says that during the Jinglong era, the immortal Iron Crutch leads her, and she officially ascends as an immortal in broad daylight.
She just floats away into the sky.
But she doesn't stay invisible. In the 9th year of the Tianbo era, she is seen at the Magu altar standing in 5 colored clouds.
5 colored clouds are a very traditional visual marker of divine manifestation in these texts.
It's highly majestic. But then we jump forward again to the Dali era.
And where's she seen?
People report seeing her back in Guangzhou at a place called the Little Stone Tower. And the local prefect, a literal government official named Gao Huang, sees her with his own eyes.
And what is his reaction to witnessing a transcendent, gravity-defying immortal?
He goes back to his office and files an official report to the imperial court about it.
It is the ultimate bureaucratic response to the divine.
I cannot get over how funny that is. We go from this highly mystical ascension in broad daylight straight into local government paperwork.
It's amazing.
You have a Tang Dynasty prefect literally filing forms in triplicate, sending them to the emperor saying, yep, per my last dispatch, saw the immortal, just updating the regional files.
Just doing my job.
Why on earth does the author include these extremely specific dates, like the Jinglong era, the 9th year of Tianbao, the Dali era, and name drop a local prefect filing a sighting report?
It's a brilliant literary device designed to ground the supernatural in the mundane. You have to remember how classical Chinese governance functioned.
Right, it was very administrative.
It was a system obsessed with administration, record-keeping, and documentation. The written official record held immense, almost sacred authority.
So if it's on paper, it's real.
By tying her post-ascension appearances to verifiable historical eras, and by naming a specific documented government official like Prefect Gao Huang, the text is engineering a paper trail for a myth.
It's forcing the state to rubber stamp the miraculous.
Precisely. It validates her existence to the reader. The author is essentially saying, look, this isn't just a story we made up to entertain you.
This is a documented historical fact.
Verified by the imperial government. Ironically, the very government she vanished to escape from, the system she rejected when she ghosted the Empress, is now providing the ultimate proof of her divine success.
Oh, wow. The bureaucracy couldn't capture her, but it still had to file the paperwork acknowledging that she beat them.
Yes.
That is such a deeply satisfying full circle. When you step back and look at this entire journey, it really is a masterclass in claiming sovereignty.